Hi, this is Rachelle with Live in Vibrancy, and I wanted to talk a little bit about, I guess, the way that I look at creating. Um, I think that it can be broken down into two tangible aspects because sometimes it can come across as maybe ambiguous. What should a person do? What should they be focusing on? Should they be thinking about it? Should they not be thinking about it? So as I said, like to break it down into two what I think are tangible ways of looking at it. So you have energy and you have perception. And they each have their own role, but they also affect one another. So, energy directs perception. So, if it's low, then your perceptions will lean towards being more negative. And when action is needed, if your energy is off, then the effect of that action is quite diminished. And so, if your energy is really high, then your perceptions will be positively affected. You'll tend to feel more confident, more optimistic, and have a higher valuation of yourself. And this is actually shown in science that the emotion that you're feeling taints your perception. And I did a video on perception, how even just labeling something, so our perception of something shifts our experience of it. Uh, there you could see someone, and if you perceive them as angry, then your experience of them will be through that filter of perception. But if your energy is low, as I mentioned, it will affect that perception. So if you are in a low mood, chances are good not chances are good, you're going to perceive everything basically through the filter of that energy. So you're more likely to be maybe triggered by things, or be insulted by things, or take them to have a negative meaning. And that's just because perception and energy are really intricately meshed. But they also have their own separate thing. So you will see this with people who feel really low, but they will think positively, and you will I know, at least I do. I can tend to really feel that some of that positivity is forced, maybe, or they're trying to move their energy out of that area, because we tend to buy into the idea, or at least until recently, within the last, I'd say, 30 or 40 years, we actually thought that all emotions were essentially driven by thoughts. But actually, research has shown that that's actually not the case. There is a whole bunch of emotions, and these tend to be the triggering ones. These tend to be the ones that always knock us out of our assumption. They are actually triggered by things outside of our conscious awareness often. And so they will cause a response in your body, and then your brain notices that your body is triggered, and it will give that trigger a meaning. And so this is why your energy drives your perception, because your brain is noticing that something negative is happening in your body, like your nervous system is triggered. And because you have a psychological, basically it's like the guards at the gate. They want to keep you safe. They want to keep everything the same. So basically your brain will, you will give it a meaning. You'll give that feeling a meaning. And often that's when we're looking outside of ourselves. But that's not really often. The meaning you're giving it has been filtered through the perceptions and the emotions. And so when you want to manifest, it's really important to deal with the energy. And there are a lot of ways to do that, not just one way. And different levels of energy, whether it's just low energy because maybe you've been working too hard, or low energy because you haven't been really prioritizing joy, low energy because your diet is poor, or that you don't move your body, because you do actually get stagnant energy in your body. And so moving will cause you to be able to shift your perceptions and your energy. But these are more in the moment solutions. When you are triggered by things, this tends to be more the case of emotional experiences that you are holding, and you actually carry that energy in your body. It can show up as illness, it can show up as body pains, and so it's important to recognize that energy. I'm rarely, when like, this is your vibration, and I'm really talking about mood because it's affected by experiences you've had in the past, the stories that you tell yourself, that sort of thing. And so you will, I'm off topic. I'm starting an entirely different video here, so I don't want to go on about this too much more. But I just really wanted to highlight the enmeshment between perception and your energy. And so and that's what I mean by experiences will often trigger you, and then you're going to filter what's happening outside you through that previous experience, because your brain only knows so much, and so it's looking for a reason, so it's just going to pull one out of the old box, and voila, now you're perceiving what someone is doing or saying in a negative way. But energy isn't really everything either. Because if you're not managing your perception, you can have amazing energy and you might have a really great life while not creating the thing that you want, because your perception is blocking it. And the thing about it is it's so subtle, and it trips up more people than you would imagine. And it's because they don't often realize that they're doing it. And the reason they don't realize they're doing it is because that is how we have experienced the world all our lives, is by assessing what is. And so when you come up with a negative perception of something, that's going to actually give you a sense of basically what your beliefs are around something. So if you feel stuck because the person that you're manifesting, or the job that you're manifesting, the opportunities, they're not coming to you, you want to take a look at your energy, and not overall, just around that one thing, because there are things that each of us, myself included, I have got pretty solid vibration about them. And then other things that I recognize, ooh, I have got like some, what I've heard called stoplight stories. And so this is the narrative, and essentially our entire life experience is the stories that we tell. And so we tell those stories over these triggered emotions, or we will connect them often. And so releasing the emotion releases the story. But even if you release the emotion and you don't release the story, it's going to continue directing your experience. So the number one thing that I see when I'm working with people is that they will go into, they will be manifesting their SP, and things will be going really well, but they are feeling friend zoned. And that's because at that moment, your perception is still of everything they do through the filter of friend, through what you think should happen. And so you have now set your perception on this idea that you're in the friend zone, when in reality, if you were directing your experience, you would give different meanings. And so that perception is showing you that there's a limitation in your sense of self, because you're waiting for that other person, you're not directing your experience. Manifesting is not assessing what is, it's directing your experience. And so, you know, those times you're with your SP and they do or say something and you're unbothered, and then you give it a good meaning, and then that good meaning happens. And you know those times that you have a casual thought about your SP and you're just maybe in kind of a daydreamy or your place, or you're doing something, and then when you see them, it happens. And you know those times when you're with your SP and they do or say something and the meaning you give it triggers you, and now you don't feel so good about you and your SP? So that was me just talking to your subconscious, because stories teach, not words. So I just wanted to drop in and talk a little bit about energy and perception, because I've been puzzling over some things. just in regards to some conversations that I've had, and where people will either be really strong in one area or really strong in another, and then they sort of get into a space where they might feel a bit stuck. And so often this is the case. You want to take a look at your energy, and I don't necessarily mean your mood. I don't mean whether you have a lot of, like, whether you're energetic or not. I mean, what are the feelings in your body around your particular, around what you're manifesting, whether it's money or whether it's relationship or whether it's a new car or, whether it's yellow shoes. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that you start becoming conscious, because this requires conscious living. Because when you're unconscious, you're just going to revert to all your old patterns. And so, and all your body's like triggers and such. And so, I just wanted to talk about those two things, because often when I see people that are stuck, or that perceive themselves as stuck, this is actually what's happening. Okay, so I just, like I said, wanted to talk about that briefly, and so I hope you are having a really fantastic evening. I have a video coming up about letting go, and then I have a video of an interview that I did back before I took my summer holidays. So I will be releasing those fairly soon, and yeah, until then, have a really fantastic evening.